planting truth in the minds of the people.
Welcome back to Broadcasting Seeds. I'm your host, Bennett Tanton, and today we're stepping into a story that's way bigger than Sunday school flannel graphs and coffee mug Bible verses. We're cracking open the book of Job, but not the version you might remember. Because buried in those ancient pages is a scene almost nobody talks about. A cosmic courtroom, a legal showdown in the unseen realm where humanity's very character is put on trial. And the star witness, a guy who never asked for any of this, Job. One moment, life's perfect. Wealth, health, family, reputation. He's the guy everyone admires. And then, poof, it's gone. Torn away with terrifying precision. Not random, not accidental, authorized. Job's life becomes evidence. His suffering becomes testimony, and the entire spiritual world is watching to see if a human can truly love God without the perks. And if that wasn't wild enough, when Job demands an explanation, God responds by revealing the primordial chaos monsters lurking behind reality. You've got Behemoth and Leviathan. These are not barnyard animals. They're symbols of spiritual war and the kind of forces that will swallow the world whole unless someone stronger keeps them chained up. So today, we're pulling back the curtain on the invisible war behind the book of Job. We're going to step into the throne room. We're going to meet the prosecutor from the shadows, and we're going to explore the beasts of chaos that God uses as Exhibit A. If you're ready for a biblical story that feels less like a children's lesson and more like a supernatural legal thriller, friggin' buckle up. Before we dive in, though, do me a favor. Like, share, and leave a review wherever you're listening. That's how this show grows. That's how more people hear these stories. And that's how we keep planting seeds in the minds of the curious. All right? Let's step into the courtroom. Section 1. When heaven opens its doors inside the divine council. So imagine this, a heavenly boardroom, not harps and clouds, but authority, hierarchy, and cosmic intelligence. You've got spiritual beings, the Bible calls them sons of God, present themselves before the throne. And into that divine setting walks a figure with a very specific job, the Hasatan, the adversary, the prosecutor. Not a horned demon, not a cartoon villain, a legal role in God's courtroom. This scene is found right at the beginning of Job's story, Job 1, 6 through 12. It tells us something shocking. Heaven has procedure. There are reviews. There are accusations. There are spiritual audits on human faithfulness. The adversary, the Hasatan, points at Job and basically says he only loves you because his life is great. Strip away and he'll curse you. That's the first punch thrown in a war you and I are still part of. Job didn't volunteer. He didn't sin his way into this mess. He simply became Exhibit A in the question. Do humans only love God when everything is good? Great question. When you stop and think about it, man, that hits hard. Because every time your life collapses, whether it's sickness or betrayal, financial ruin or grief, the same question An challenge echoes in the unseen realm. Will they still trust? Job's world burns down in a single day. Wealth gone, children dead, his name dragged through the mud, and the courtroom isn't on earth. It's above him. He doesn't get a defense attorney either. His suffering becomes his testimony. Throughout history, cultures have believed that divine beings gather in councils to debate, to plan, to judge. The Bible isn't shy about this either. 1 Kings 22, 19 through 23, God asks his council how to handle the king's fate. Psalm 82, God stands and judges the other spiritual beings, being the Elohim. This isn't random spirituality. This is government, heavenly government. If that's true, then your life isn't a quiet, private thing. Your everyday fight might be being presented in a chamber you'll never see while you breathe. Job's story shows us heaven watches how we handle suffering. Accusation is a major weapon of spiritual warfare. Loyalty is proven without blessings attached. And let's get real. Suffering feels personal. But the book of Job suggests it's often bigger than us. There's a cosmic audience evaluating what our loyalty is made of. And when Job's world falls apart, he does something almost no one does when they're devastated. He tears his robe, collapses to the ground, and worships. Not because he's happy, not because he understands, but because God was still God. The heavenly prosecutor loses round 1, but the trial isn't over. The stakes rise, the accusations, they sharpen, and Job's body, his very flesh, becomes the next battleground. The courtroom is still in session. In a world obsessed with the physical, maybe the most intense battles are actually legal, fought with accusations, doubt, and spiritual pressure. Maybe the enemy doesn't need claws when he has a case file. And if that's true, then the story of Job isn't ancient history. It's the oldest active case in the supernatural justice system. Section 2, Behemoth and Leviathan. The Chaos Titans God keeps on a leash. So Job reaches his breaking point. He sits in the ashes, scraping open sores with broken pottery, demanding a hearing with God. He wants answers, explanations. He wants justice. And when God finally shows up, he doesn't explain anything. Instead, he takes Job on a tour of the boundaries of creation, the edges where order meets chaos. And he introduces 2 creatures that reveal what Job is really up against. One being Behemoth, the other Leviathan. Names that sound like something out of a myth, frankly, because they are. Behemoth, Earth's heavyweight. God's first exhibit, a monster of the land. Behemoth is described as the chief of the ways of God, a creature so massive and immovable that no human weapon can control it. Its bones are compared to bronze and iron. Its tail moves like a cedar tree. It feeds where the water and the earth meet, that border where life and danger mix. Ancient readers would have instantly recognized this imagery. Behemoth isn't a hippo or a cow. It represents primordial chaos on land, the untamable, the unstoppable, a reminder that no king, no empire, no human effort can fully conquer nature's most ancient forces. Only God can. Then, Leviathan, the serpent of the deep. Then God shifts the scene to the sea, the deep waters, the biblical symbol of danger, death, and the unknown. And from those dark depths, Leviathan rises. Not a whale, not a crocodile, a cosmic sea dragon, a serpent that breathes fire, whose scales are like shields, whose mere presence turns warriors into cowards. Entire mythologies revolve around beasts like this. And in Babylon, she's Tiamat, the dragon goddess of chaos. In Ugaritic lore, he's Lotan, the seven-headed sea serpent. And in the Bible, Leviathan is destined for destruction at the ultimate end of spiritual war. Now, to ancient listeners, this wasn't just an animal. Leviathan represented the living embodiment of chaos, rebellion against order, and reality without restraint, the nightmare lurking beneath the world's surface. And God looks at Job and says, I put a leash on that. Not only is he aware of the chaos, he controls it. Why God shows the monsters? Job thinks he's fighting sickness, grief, and humiliation, but God is showing him something so much deeper. Your suffering, it's not random. It's not small. You're standing in the crossfire of cosmic forces that existed before humanity ever breathed. God doesn't give Job a reason for his pain. He gives him reality. There are things in this universe that can crush you, but they don't. Why? Because someone stronger has them bound. The chaos that terrifies us, the spiritual storms that shake our world, the forces that would love nothing more than to swallow us whole. They are powerful, but not sovereign. Behemoth reminds us that God is stronger than any earthly enemy. And Leviathan reminds us that God dominates the deepest, darkest chaos imaginable. And Job, broken, confused, devastated, is being shown that he is not abandoned. Even the monsters answer to the Creator. Chaos exists. Evil exists. Spiritual warfare exists. But they are not running this universe. God is not losing control. Even when the world feels like it's coming apart at the seams, sometimes what looks like destruction is actually a revelation of who's actually and really in charge. Section 3. When God cross-examines humanity, the invisible war over suffering. Okay. Job's story isn't really about losing everything. It's about what remains when everything is gone. See, the adversary never accused Job of being evil. He accused him of being conditional. Take away the blessings and he'll curse you, he said. That's the accusation at the heart of spiritual warfare. Not that you'll fail morally, but that your faith is only skin deep. So God steps into the whirlwind and puts humanity on the stand. Not to shame Job, but to show the entire unseen realm what a human soul can endure. The cross-examination. God asks questions that slice right past Job's complaints. Were you there when I laid the foundation of the earth? The Creator asks. Can you loosen Orion's belt? Do you command the morning? These are not rhetorical flexes. They're reminders. You don't see the whole picture, but I do. We want answers to pain. God asks us questions instead, questions that call us to trust, not understand. Job starts the trial demanding justice. He ends it realizing he was never the judge. Suffering as spiritual evidence. When you look at Job's life before the collapse, it's easy to admire him. But admiration isn't evidence. Suffering is, because suffering exposes what we actually worship, what we actually rely on, and what we give or what we believe about God when everything else is burnt away. Faith that survives fire is the kind that cannot be faked. And that's exactly what the cosmic courtroom is evaluating. Are we loyal because God is good, or just because life is good? Job's real story reveals a truth most people never learn. Your darkest nights might not be punishment. They just might be proof. Proof to heaven that you're stronger than your tears. Proof to hell that its accusations are wrong. Proof to yourself that your spirit is more resilient than your circumstance. Humanity's unexpected victory is Job never curses God. He wrestles, he questions, he cracks in places, but he never turns his back. And that, in spiritual warfare, is a win. Not because Job figured everything out, but because he refused to give up even when he didn't understand. That's what defeats the adversary. Not miracles, not blessings, not answers. Endurance. At the end of the trial, Job sees God more clearly than ever before. Not because God explained the why, but because he revealed the who. Job walks out of his ashes with something the Hasatan could never calculate. A faith that wasn't purchased by blessings, but proven by loss. He becomes living testimony that humanity can love without condition. And that, right there, is the cosmic courtroom upset. The moment a man proved the Hasatan, the adversary, the devil, whatever you want to call him, wrong. The case continues. And that's the wild reality the book of Job leaves us with. The biggest battles in our lives aren't fought in our bodies or in our bank accounts. They're battled in the unseen courts of heaven. Job never saw the adversary point his finger at him. He never heard the accusations made against him. He never witnessed God giving permission for the storm to hit his life. But he lived through it. And his faith, battered, bruised, confused, stood as evidence that humanity has more grit than hell ever expected. Your suffering may feel pointless, but Job's story says otherwise. Somewhere beyond what your eyes can see, your endurance might be shutting the mouth of the accuser. Your refusal to quit might be winning a case you don't even know is being argued. So the next time life hits you like a sledgehammer or a whirlwind, remember, you're not just surviving, you're testifying. Before we wrap up, if this episode brought you any value, if it challenged you or sparked any new ideas, please like, share, and leave a review. The support keeps the show growing, and it helps bring more people into these deep dives on faith, mystery, and the unseen. Thank you for hanging with me today. in the Cosmic Courtroom. I'm your host, Ben Tanton, and this has been Broadcasting Seeds. Stay curious, stay watchful, and remember, the case isn't closed.
There's a trial in the thunder, a wager in the wind. A righteous man is suffering for reasons buried deep within. No angel sound a warning, no comfort in the night. Just a gavel in the shadows and a devil grinning tight. They say patience is a virtue, but this ain't patience, this is war. Faith is forged in silence when you're crawling on the floor. In the courtroom in the sky, where the unseen judges stand, they're weighing every tear that falls, they're watching every man. Chaos claws up from the deep, Leviathan draws near. But I will not curse you, Lord, even when you won't appear. Behemoth shakes the mountains, the sea begins to roar, and Job is sitting broken, asking what he's living for. His friends speak cheap theology, they talk like they know why, but only God can answer from that whirlwind in the sky. The silence feels like judgment, but the battle's being tried, and the proof of love is fire when heaven seems to hide. In the courtroom in the sky, your name is on the line. The accuser points his finger, saying righteousness is blind. Monsters circle in the dark, wanting him to disappear, but I will not curse you, Lord, even when you won't appear. Maybe faith ain't building comfort, maybe truth walks through the flame. Maybe love is proven only when there's nothing left to gain. When the night gets loud with demons and the soul is split in two, you find out what you worship when the silence looks at you. In the courtroom in the sky, I'll testify for you. Chaos bows before the one who tells the storm what it can do. Satan loses every bet when a wounded heart stays true. I will not curse you, Lord, even when you're silent, I will worship you.